back to Learnex. English forever.
In our paranormal bimester dedicated to all those things that make your skin crawl, in Learnex, the first and only community in the English language, we want to give you all the tools necessary for your learning, which is why today we will talk about those films that with a low budget have managed to be liked by the public, in addition to collecting much more than expected. So let's get started with Saw. A man who believes he has the right ideas about good and evil decides to judge others and subject them to a series of tortures and games that will take them to the mental and physical limits. James Wan, mastermind of the film, only had a little over $1 million for filming, but the production became so popular that he raised about $100 million around the world. As if that were not enough, another subgenre of terror was born: torture porn. Paranormal Activity. The surprise of 2007 was this movie that certainly put us on the edge of our seat. The story of a couple that begins to suffer a series of supernatural phenomena caused a sensation, which was reflected in a worldwide collection of almost $200 million, figure that contrasted with the $15,000 budget. Although this first film is a jewel of the genre, it did not happen without sequels. Friday the 13th. The story of a group of boys who were killed for trying to reopen a camp introduced one of the most emblematic villains of horror movies, Jason. Although who really kills is his mother. The film over time became a cult production despite criticism that claimed it was a copy of John Carpenter's movie Halloween. The film cost $550,000 and collected over $60 million. The Descent. The English film portrays a group of women who fall into the depths of a cave and who must also fight for their lives as they are threatened by strange beings that emerge from the darkness. In short, it is a story that leaves us claustrophobic and in horror. With a budget of $4.5 million, it raised over $57 million. Night of the Living Dead. It is indisputable that George Romero is the king of the zombie genre, and Night of the Living Dead is proof of that. The 1968 film portrays the horde of hungry living dead of human flesh, but this is only part of it, since Romero also introduced other hot topics in production such as anti-military sentiment and racism. Despite complaints of explicit violence, Night of the Living Dead remains one of the best horror films of all time. At the box office, he received over $30 million with a budget of only $114,000. The Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie's cinema is not for everyone, and that is largely due to the style that is an ode to gore and violence at its best. Although a movie may be a bit difficult to digest, Zombie tells us the story where a group of murderers are tortured by other psychopaths. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Well, this horror movie jewel that would later become a benchmark for the predecessors was made with only $300,000. This story of a twisted family that attacks a group of boys plus the terrifying appearance of Leatherface are some of the elements that helped this production raise over $30 million at the box office, a classic that still terrifies us to this day. As you can see, these 7 films have taken the world by storm, and even though they started off with a very low budget, the amount of money made due to their popularity, to their different elements included in the movies, has astounded us to this day. We hope you enjoyed and learned a little bit more and practiced some of your English. Stay tuned next week at 9:15 p.m. for another episode of Feedback Learnex.
Feedback Learnex, English Forever. Estamos en sintonía. Feedback Learnex, English Forever.